Okay, just reading some of the stuff today, a little unfortunate news. It kind of interrelates to everything I talked about in the past few days. Remember yesterday when I said people contacted me in trying to find a missing person because they knew I had a drone, I have a license so I can fly around the area. But because of things like misinformation, I guess, for authority figures not understanding drone regulations, like thinking you can't use it, eventually they just went off and looked for the person, and to my understanding, they've been trying for a few days. They expressed to me the reason why they thought of the drone was because it can cover more ground quickly. I mean, you can imagine, walking in such a huge area, even with a lot of people, probably takes forever compared to someone just flying the drone up and looking at the whole place instantly, right? And during situations like this, I would imagine every second counts. Every little delay could mean life and death to somebody. So I learned today where apparently they did find the person, so that's great, right? But apparently it was worded like, I get the hint, they found the body. But what it did make me think of is that whole notion I mentioned again, where people fear-mongering the tech and so forth. A person like me could have been in there, instantly use it to search for the person. But because of all these over-the-top, ridiculous stuff that has nothing to do with safety, you stop people from using the tech in a good way. So it just made me think, I guess, to talk about some of the stuff like that, since now I have like a real example to go by. As many of you know, recently that topic that I talked about, where it seemed like it was mostly lobbyists, people trying to fear-monger the tech in order to create this environment where they make these drones sound like deadly weapons. They're sophisticated, huge aircraft, and so because of that, they need to be regulated as such. And at the same time, the system isn't set up to teach people about safety. For example, flying a drone, why would you need to teach a person flying the drone in regards to how having jet lag affects your ability to fly a drone? Newsflash, you are using like a remote controller, for example. Majority of the people are on the ground. You're not sitting on the actual thing and flying as if it's a huge manned aircraft. But yet there's a lot of people actually taking advantage of that. Businesses, for example, they're saying, oh yeah, we agree with the way it is, just so they can charge people hundreds of thousands of dollars. I mentioned before, it basically created kind of like an industry of fake gurus. People sell all these courses, again, for hundreds of dollars. They don't really teach you how to fly, but they're just taking advantage of the situation. And then afterwards, they probably just brag, oh, look at how many courses or whatever we sold, it must work. Instead, they should be taking like a real hard look saying, does this make sense, this whole process? And it doesn't. Because for this example here, I would imagine, just from what they told me, my plan, what it would have been, you would have flown again, like what, maybe 50 meters in the air or something like that. It was actually like in a huge area too, huge open area, but it's very foresty and all that. Because the narrative, for example, was you have like a nightmare where this thing's gonna hit an airplane. I even said before, what about your nightmare of the fact that it's so ridiculous, it doesn't focus on safety. All it does is stop people from using the tech in a perfectly safe way. What if people can use it to save someone's life, like here? To be clear, it's been a few days, so the person could have passed away a few days ago, but it's a legitimate question. What are the odds, for example, that someone's flying like these types of drones every single day near aircraft and all that in the same level versus the hundreds if not thousands of people who could legitimately use it in more common ways like this that probably happens all the time? It's like that ironic story before, if you guys remember, where there was some kind of, I don't know, national park or something in the US, and there was someone lost, and they brought in people to fly a drone, but there was a sign there saying drones are not allowed. But what happens if it is like there again, like a situation where a drone could actually save someone's life in that way? Shouldn't they be able to do it? And in that case, the person actually did get saved because of the use of the drone. And then there's other stories that comes to mind. For example, there's one in New York where they said a piece of a building fell on a person, and because of that, unfortunately, they passed away. And they were saying how because of those draconian drone laws where they treat it like a huge aircraft, like you're not allowed to take off like in their city area there, now they're demanding change. Why should you have to wait until someone passes away per se? And another story that comes to mind that actually happened here in BC, it actually dealt with someone missing as well. Apparently they couldn't get any resources or police to help them find the missing body. So what the person did was they hired a teenager to fly a drone to get aerial perspective to see if they can find the body and stuff like that. Like, to me, it's perfectly fine, but there are people, like I said, those commercialized people will say, heck no, kid, you're not able to fly this, you're not licensed, etc., etc. Yet, if you think about it, before all these crazy over-the-top regulation stuff, people were probably flying this stuff all the time. and there was not one catastrophic accident or anything like that. It's almost like some people are so bent on just profiting off this current broken system that they want things to stay the way they are just so they can sell courses and stuff like that with non-related questions or practical applications that actually teach people how to fly. So they want to mystify it and complicate it, when really, honestly, when it comes to like flying this drone, I would say it's probably closer to riding a bike or something like that. You get up, you try it, encourage people to go in an open field, and it really is that simple. I mean, I am a case example of that. I went out and practiced every single day, and even I said, none of this system or stuff like that taught me how to be like a safe flyer or to fly it in a good way. It was all from practical experience, and if anything, ironically, this system just limits people where they can fly, what they can do to actually get that practice. Or instead of riding a bike, my personal example on how I learned basically transferable skill actually just came from playing video games, because it's actually really similar. I would think, again, if you took the best gamer in the world and the best traditional manned aircraft pilot who has no experience in this type of stuff, the gamer's probably better in flying the drone. I would put my money on that. My example is still the same as before. If theoretically you base everything on traditional manned aircraft that's supposed to make someone safer, then if you take someone with 3 decades of traditional manned aviation experience flying in a real airplane, if you think that guy is gonna be better than someone like myself, for example, to fly a drone, like it's exactly the same skill, man, are you in for a rude awakening? That guy's probably gonna be like, what, staring at the screen like this, so nervous when they first try, swerve the drone everywhere. I wouldn't doubt that would happen, because it's a completely different skill set. Again, people in the Vancouver area, you'll probably see it in the news in some form. I'm just not gonna talk too much about it, because I would assume that family wants privacy and all that. But it makes me wonder, will things change? What's more important, the fears of what ifs or actual real examples like this that probably happen all the time? I wouldn't doubt too, actually, these people probably thought of it in the first place. Oh man, if we could only get someone to fly a drone, but because of all the regulations and all that, like who do you contact and all that? I even said the other day, I don't see how these people can sleep at night, the people that are always drone police people doing nothing wrong and in a sense encouraging things to be over the top and ridiculous. I mean, what does it take? More stories like this for people to say, okay, something isn't right. Let's go back to the drawing board. Let's ask, for example, people who actually use this stuff every day, see how it's like, so we can adjust it to make it more reasonable and all that. Makes me think too, because if in the end the argument is, well, they consulted with all these businesses, they misled us and all that. Well, unfortunately, I think if you're in that position to make these rules and stuff, it's your job to try to get all the perspective, the neutral ones, to see what it's actually like, not just people that profit over it. See you guys later.